Hello, everyone, and welcome to Food Travel Talk TV, a monthly talk show brought to you by the World Food Travel Association, the world's leading authority on food and beverage tourism. Food Travel Talk TV was created by and for the world's culinary travel trade. Its goal is to inspire us all with ways to help us do business better. Each month, we invite industry thought leaders, opinion makers, and trendsetters to discuss important topics for our industry's benefit. My name is Eric Wolf, and I'll be your host today for our November 2020 episode. This month's topic is how the study of gastronomy tourism is evolving. And I'd like to introduce our guest speakers, Pietro Pagella, Slow Food Università di Scienze Gastronomiche outside Torino, Italy.
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Eric, for having me.
And Dottora Maria del Pilar Leal Londoño from the CETT School of Tourism, Hospitality, and Gastronomy in Barcelona, Spain.
Thank you, Eric, and hi, everybody, and thanks for sharing and for inviting us.
We are using a bespoke webinar system, so Zoom rules don't apply here. Any handouts, links, and polls shared in the live session are for live guests only. If you're watching this recording after the air date, we're sorry, but you will not be able to access those materials. Feel free to post your questions at any time in the chat window. We will reserve the last 20 minutes or so for our guests to answer your questions. Now I'd like to set the tone for today's episode. Gastronomy tourism is hot. Most destinations in the world today are looking at how they can promote their food and beverage products and experiences as attractions to visitors. And in the 20 years since our organization founded the food tourism industry, we have all seen our industry grow substantially. From 2001, when the idea was just a white paper, to today, when the topic is now the subject of advanced university research and coursework in respected universities. Gastronomy tourism education can apply to professional development and workforce training, ongoing academic research, or even in ways we may not expect, such as preservation of local culinary cultures. Today, we are asking two academics who oversee gastronomy tourism instruction in their respective universities to share their opinions on the subject. And as we are about to get started, they would both like to show a 1-minute video about their respective universities. So first, we'll see the CETT Barcelona video. Okay, and now we'll see Pietro's video from the Università di Scienze Gastronomiche. Great, thank you both. So now let's get started. And from the first question I'd like to ask is, what would you say is the state of gastronomy tourism education today? Who'd like to tackle that first?
So go ahead, Pietro, and then I'm going just to continue with your intervention.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, hello everyone. Well, thank you, Eric, for your question. What I would love to share is the way that today we think, we as University of Gastronomic Sciences think about tourism, gastronomy, education, and which basically is, in one word, well, two words, study trips, which, as you have seen in the video, is the concept that got developed and was developed since the beginning and the invention of this university. Well, the philosophy behind the idea of getting outside of the university, so outside of a class, in order to study food, is based on this simple concept, which is basically the fact that it is impossible to fully understand and study food without observing and understanding the context where food is produced and how food it is consumed. So for this reason, for sure, inside the university, we have people studying food on books. We also taste food in class. So we take food from outside and we take it to class. But we do think that that is not enough. And for this reason, we have decided to develop a project that allowed students to go outside of university, and so to basically create a connection also with territories and different cultural contexts. Just to give you a few data so that we can understand each other, every year the university is delivering more or less 100 study trips. And we've visited last year more than 40 countries in the world. The average experience lasts for about 8 days, and we take groups of, let's say, 15 up to 20 people. That's the average group that we are able to bring outside of the university. We are able to do this because we have a team that is part of the university. It's an entire office which is dedicated to organizing those kind of experiences. And as I was also sharing before with Maria and Eric, it is very interesting the fact that we are focused on educating gastronomes, and we organize those kind of experiences that basically provide frontal visits with food producers and food makers, as well as meeting with stakeholders and policymakers. And we do all of this in order to educate the figure of the gastronome, which to us it's a connoisseur of food at 360 degrees. But at the same time, we are very happy because we can say that the project has lots of touristic implications as well. And I will also say it generates also lots of touristic impacts towards the territories where we have developed this project. The main reason why we're able to do this is, and I have definitely to say this, is first of all, because we've developed an amazing network together with Slow Food all throughout the years. And at the same time, we also have a beautiful network of former students that are now involved in tourism. And so they are also community leaders, and they are able to provide and to help us to organize those experiences all around the world. And it has been like that since a few years already. So I would say more or less 10 years, because one other thing that I have to say is that we are a very young institution. We have, we're more or less 10 years old, I would say. And the other thing, so that's it. We know that we are small, and for this reason, we know that we are also a drop into an ocean, because when we talk about touristic impacts and destination development, we really need to be aware of what we're talking about. And we know that each year we organize 100 trips, which is a lot, but also we know that we visit destinations not that often. What is also important to mention, in my opinion, is also that we are able to follow an academic calendar, which I believe it's very interesting because we can travel to destinations in low season, and that is helping the destinations in a touristic, from a touristic point of view. And this was just to start, and I hope that with this introduction, everyone can have at least an idea of what we do and why we think that educating the gastronome is very important, but we also think that there are touristic implications, and obviously we love that.
Maria, what are your thoughts on gastronomy tourism education today?
Well, I think that Pietro has just given so many different, let's say, issues that he has raised so far. So I would say he mentioned that we are young in a way as a university. I mean, on the contrary, based on what we do is like said, we have 50 years just training and educated people in tourism. But Pietro has just mentioned this idea of we are new and young, but you are young into one of the topics that is gastronomy, and you have identified how important is tourism, and you also mentioned this experience. So I will say that how will the state of gastronomy tourism education is today? I will say that today there is a recognition of the importance of merge these two sectors. So for one side is the gastronomic sector, and for the other side is the tourism sector. So the education has evolved in the idea just to mesh both, and also with the idea to produce experiences. So Pietro just mentioned this, is that, well, we just create these study trees because we really understand that there is a necessity that the people just travel and touch the product and leave the product and so on. So and we understand that we do have people that is motivated with this idea of food and gastronomy and discovery and experiencing, and we need to deal from the tourism perspective. We will need to deal on how we can just produce authentic experiences. We were just discussing before the authenticity, but also how we can just produce impacts, I will say not impacts, maybe the effects on the territory that this tourism or these trips are just taking place, where the people are want to go and discover these products and this food. So we really need trained people in order just to manage and deal with this reality. So the state of gastronomy tourism today is, let's say, more coherent in a way, but on the other hand, I will say that it's scarce. It's scarce in terms that we really need more, and we really need more knowledge production in terms of gastronomy tourism. We have a scarce, for instance, doctoral programs worldwide regarding gastronomy tourism. I mean, that merging both, because for one side traditionally has been gastronomy or culinary, and then for the other side we have just tourism. So far, step by step in the later years, we have seen how both in educational programs are just starting to merge and to understand these both sides. As I said before, we really need more doctoral programs in gastronomy tourism. We really need more universities like the Pietro's University, the University of Gastronomic Sciences, because we really need to understand, but also we will need to understand this mix with the tourism sector in order to provide successful, authentic experience for the people that are interested and motivated in food tourism. It is quite complex, I will say, because there are two big sectors, cross-sectoral, both of them, big ones. But we really need, let's say, the state of gastronomic tourism is in an infant stage, I will say. We really need more programs in gastronomy tourism. We really need more trained people that understand these two sectors, the interrelations and interlinks between both.
It's interesting you said it's at the infant stage. I was going to ask you how you think that the study has changed over the past few years, but Pietro, you said university is only 10 years old. So you both are starting from zero, starting from nothing, and building this field of gastronomy tourism education. So you are where you are now. So where are things going? What will gastronomy tourism education be like in 10 years?
Well,
should I start? Just go and then
is it okay for you, Maria?
No, just go ahead, and then if you would
Okay,
like to.
okay, I'm going. Yes, absolutely. So, well, definitely, and also I agree very much with what Maria was saying about, you know, her analysis about educational and tourism. Definitely, I will also say that yes, it's true we are young, but still that there has been few things changing over the last few years. I don't know if Maria agrees with me, but I do believe that the experiences that are related to gastronomy and education are definitely increasing. Well, which in my opinion means that there is a curiosity out there for those kind of experiences. And I also believe that that kind of curiosity goes together with this kind of curiosity for exoticism somehow. I will try to give you an example. For example, let's say I work at the university since, let's say, 2014, and a few years ago, if I was looking for some foraging experience to offer to the students, which at least in Italy, it's something that it's pretty, rare, I will say. It was, at least. It was difficult to find restaurant owners that was able to provide a foraging experience to students. If I now go in the internet looking for that kind of experience, which to me is a good mix of gastronomical knowledge, educational aspects, and it's definitely a touristic activity, well, there is a lot out there. So I would say that those kind of experiences the demand for those experiences is increasing, and also the supply of those activities, which I would say it's a very good thing. And I also believe that the proof of that is also the fact that big companies and big platforms are now offering lots of this kind of experiences that are a good mix of gastronomy, education, and tourism. So let me just say it's good because, as well, let's say for our students as well, because they are trained, because they're very passionate about the topic, and so there is room for them. I will also say, in somehow a provocative way, that there are also a few things that haven't changed in the last few years. And to me, I'm referring to this curiosity of exoticism that most of the time goes together with this curiosity for food experiences. And it's not that I'm against that, because I do recognize that it's normal. At the same time, I also believe that we should develop a curiosity towards what is exotic, but also towards what is somehow very similar. And at least we should learn how to ask ourselves the question, why is something similar? And that question must have the same importance of the other question, which is, why is something different? So I might say, I hope that makes sense to you. By the way, I believe that is a process. And what I just want to say is that we are very, at least in the university, we're quite proud of being able to prove our students wrong when they are very curious about food experiences, but they also have this tension towards what is different and exotic, and maybe they do not have the same expectations for what is very close to them. So there is this connection of, diversity means something far and means something beautiful, and what is very close to us might not be as interesting as the other topic. But we have proof now that even traveling very close to where you are, or go back to a region that because you might just come from there, it's an amazing opportunity to find things that you didn't know and to discover things in terms of heritage, in terms of as well as traditional ingredients and products that are definitely important, as well as some other experiences.
Maria?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Pietro. Well, I will add just trying to just link the previous question with these questions, with how has the future of gastronomy tourism. But let's say that when I started my PhD, like almost, I would say 10 years ago or so, I said to Pietro before we start, that will be a live stream, that one of my references was the Gastronomic in Italy. It was the University of Gastronomic Sciences, because it was the first university worldwide that I have seen that it was just, addressed to that topic. So I found it fantastic. That was, I think it was 2004 or so. So then, for instance, in Spain, back in 2009, if I'm just recording properly, so we just have here the Basque Culinary Center, which is in north Spain, San Sebastian. So it was addressed to gastronomy sciences, and they have even a master in gastronomy tourism. That said, in 2011, we just launched this innovation program. It was a master program, and we just decided to put the culinary and gastronomy heritage as a part, like on the spotlight, just to we understood that it was an increasing demand, and I would say that worldwide. That is the same that Pietro just mentioned it before. Just to say, we have seen more and more students interested in trying to find out this authentic experience and more exotism and so on. And we have seen the industry too, that they just have react to that. In order, we have seen in the latest years, I mean, 2009, 10, 11, a huge production of an amount of different businesses that they just offer food tours. And in Barcelona, that was quite popular, and it has been quite popular. So, and I think that the education has evolved in the same way. So there is an interest for discovering, for see and recognize our culinary and cultural heritage through food that we can call gastronomy, and we can put food in us in the same way. But I will say that this evolution also we have seen in our students. Our students are more and more interested in discover, because they come from different countries, Ecuador or Mexico or Europe, and they are willing, and they have this willingness to discover their own culinary heritage. They would like to understand how the things, the ingredients, the way that they have, the traditions that they have, and that they put into food, how they just can transmit the same sense for another people, and how can be interested for another people, and in that case within the tourism industry. So I think that there is an evolution that has response to the demand. If I'm giving you, for instance, I said before that the production is scarce, the knowledge production is scarce. When we think about thesis, final dissertations, for instance, in Spain that merged these two, gastronomy, tourism, there are just 6. I just found 6 theses that they just match this gastronomy, tourism. So there is an interest in, because in this 2017 or so, we have seen more and more theses, but we really need more and more knowledge production in order to make a big evolution of this discipline. And that might be not just the interest of the industry or the interest of demand, that it just really turns something that there is a huge knowledge production that can make this progression within the gastronomy, tourism.
Interesting. How would you say students have changed in the past several years? What were they before and what are they now?
I'm just coming back here and then just Pietro, just following, just trying to close in and close this part. Let's say that lately, as I said before, so at the beginning it was more intended to discover and to know that there was gastronomy, that it was linked to tourism, how to manage. So nowadays the students are looking for their own traditions, I mean their own products, their own ingredients, their own roots, and trying to recognize and put the value that they have. Sometimes within the final dissertations, within the master final dissertations, they are just starting to discover how rich the gastronomy and the culinary heritage that they have. So they are just realizing this. And this part, and I think that the profile is, we always have had these 3 different profiles. The one that comes from tourism, and they are interested in gastronomy. The second one that comes from gastronomy, and they will like to understand tourism. And then the other one that comes from business administration or anthropology or cultural studies, and they will like to understand both. So we have these different profiles throughout the years. So far we have been the same, but I will say that the changing is probably that they will like to understand in depth what do they have in their own, in their homes or other countries, in their home countries, and so on. So I think that this evolution we have witnessed so far. I don't know, Pietro, in your case, which is the experience?
It's a very good question, and I would say first of all that somehow it depends, because we have an undergrad program, and I believe that students in the undergrad are different from the postgraduate and then the masters, for example. But I believe that maybe people are looking at the unis, so the University of Gastronomic Sciences, as a start to somehow have a journey. And so they come because they want to discover, and so they want to really like look far. And I do believe it's part of a process that, as Maria was definitely saying, I believe it's, you know, the starting process of basically be able after a few years to look back at your own culture and be able to compare different contexts and different traditions. And I do believe that this process is very important and very interesting, which at the end of the day, it is also what we are thinking of when we provide students with many destinations, so that they are able within few years to see completely different cultural context and gastronomical context, so that they will be able eventually to compare them and see what is similar and what is different, and to ask themselves why is something similar and why is something different, as well as finding out that what it seems different is very similar, and vice versa, if that makes sense.
I was wondering, sorry, Eric, but I was wondering is if, because in our, I mean, our program that is dedicated to culinary and gastronomy heritage, we do have more female, I mean, we're more women studying. And I don't know if the profile is the same in you know, in the Gastronomic Science University.
I would say it's a good mix. And in terms of, you know, I would say it's pretty balanced right now. So that wasn't a trend that I've observed, but you know, it's very, I think it's very interesting what you're saying.
Well, yes, I was, you know, when we just look the data, our data, it's more female. It has been more female in this specific topic. And another thing that I have realized in the later years is that there are more people interested, or maybe it's a new way, but this part of gastronomy and communication, it is like, again, like a more open for destinations, even how you can communicate gastronomy as a destination, how you market this gastronomy as a part, because you understand that it's important for your destination, might be a way for marketing. So this area of interest also has been, you know, had been witnessed in the latest years. So that is also interesting, just to mention it here.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that students from other countries are coming to Europe to learn about their own culinary cultures.
Yeah.
And I think that that's testimony to the fact that Europe is actually leading in the study of gastronomy tourism, whether it's in Spain or Italy or other destinations as well. So what would you say, well, are these students, are they confusing gastronomy and gastronomy tourism when they start their studies? Because sometimes we do see people, they love travel and they get all excited, but then they want to be a chef. So there's a lot of mix over. How do we sort them into the right buckets?
Well, if I may, should
Please.
I? Right? Okay. Well, I would say that the point when we come to gastronomy tourism, let's say that the tourism, the first part of the definition of tourism is that you just leave your home place, your residence, and then you just move to another place. So when it comes to gastronomy tourism, so you should understand that one of the motivations that just taking you out of your home, of your place of residence, is going to be food. But then it comes another debate that we don't have so much data, and that's what I say we really need more research and more data, because we have some specific cases have shown us that there is people that they are the main motivation for traveling and for leave their home place, their home residence, it is food. It is going to be gastronomy. But when it comes here, that we really need more information here. We cannot extrapolate the data that they have found, I don't know, in some cases in Spain or some cases even in Italy and so on. So in order that the people don't get confused, the gastronomy tourism, it will be more from definition, just if you would like to experience, if you would like to discover new cultures, if you would like to, let's say, have contact through with a culture through food, and you are leaving your place of residence and you would like to do this, make this trip, you will be, let's say, talking about gastronomy tourism. We can have some kind of debate whether we can just name gastronomy tourists as those that just the main motivation is just traveling for going and go to a farm or something like that. So let's say that the experience also in the research has shown that we do have different profiles, that the But one of the, let's say, motivations there is going to be food, that they will like to discover food. They will like to discover the authenticity of a destination through food. And that makes something different. We can have here different profiles. We have had some different contributions from the research area that they classify the different motivations, well, the different profiles based on food. But let's say that that will be that confusing if we're just thinking about displacement. I think that the key word here will be displacement and motivation. I don't know. Would like
Yeah,
to say?
absolutely. No, I agree. I agree with Maria, and I don't know if it is required. I mean, I think it's basically, Maria, I think you said everything that was to say. I just, it is interesting what I can tell from my point of view, and I'm of course talking about study trips, is the fact that technically, I mean, it's interesting from, I believe, from an academic point of view, where the concept of study trips might end in terms of what are we do, like, when we leave for a journey, in this case for a journey, a brief journey towards the discovery of a destination, and somehow we are doing this because of, it's kind of a B2B relation, because we are, putting in contact the future professionals of food with chefs and stakeholders, policymakers. So yes, we visit the place. Yes, we want to know what the authentic product, let's say the traditional product of a destination is. But it's not only about eating or visiting productions. It is also about understanding policy, understanding complexity of a foodscape and a food system. And this is just to say that we do not believe that we are tourists, even though we, for sure, we live an experience for just a certain amount of time, and then we go back, which this is basically what makes us tourists. And so in terms of statistics, when I'm trying to explain, and this is what also we were discussing before, is like, we do gastronomy and we want to study, and so we are professionals, but at the same time, we are also doing tourism, and there is a lot of gray areas there, which is why I sure believe that Maria is right when she says we need a lot of research in this field, because there are so many connections that we need people to share their point of views, because there might be lots of intersections there and entanglement.
What are the
Absolutely.
students focusing on in their studies? I mean, Maria, you mentioned at one point gastronomy and communication. Obviously, food service is interesting, but what are some of the bigger areas that they're focusing on? And then I want to tie this into the careers that they're going into. So is there a connection between what they're studying in their careers, or are they studying, culinary cultures, right, or culinary heritage, or whatever it is, and then doing something different?
Well, for the experience that we have had, we have a lot of people that they run their own business, so they just became entrepreneurs within the food and gastronomy tourism scenario, let's say in this area. So we do have people because before we were just mentioning that they come from Latin America. Most of them, I mean, we have people that are students that they come from Latin America. They do have, we do have some people and some students that they are working in public areas, so they will like to come back to their own countries in order to improve policies, in order to improve and planning regarding gastronomy and tourism. I mean, basically tourism planning. But we also have people that they just take this part of communication and they work in consultancy, for instance. So let's say that we do have some different profiles that after this training, they change a little bit their own careers, or they just, because they studied business administration, so afterwards they just started run a business regarding food tourism, food tours, travel agencies focus on food tourism. So this is part what they are just, let's say, what we are seeing. I think that we are just given some basis in order that they just be able to see their own possibilities and skills, and how to, in order just to choose their path that it will be more convenient for them based on their interested too.
Pietro?
Awesome. Yes, I would say that because we were going in the direction of finding connections between gastronomy and tourism, because as we were mentioned before, uni is about gastronomy, so the gastronomy it's a figure that basically can work in many, I would say, um, in many sectors of the industry, not only the industry of food, and which is why I believe that there are lots of gastronomes that are very involved with the tourism industry. And just to give you an example, I said in the past 10 years, we've developed this project of study trips, and we are able to do this on one side because of slow food and the network that has been developed in many countries of the world, but also because there are former students that come from even like rural areas of the world, and they know how important it is gastronomy in order to attract tourists, in order to develop the destination. And so what they do is they go back to where they come from, and they start to create networks, and which means that they know how to get people and producers involved. And I love to think that obviously there is a slow food, but our former students, they also try to get as many people as they can involved, which means associations, which means categories at all levels, so that they are able at the end of the day to create what is in other terms called just a touristic offer, in terms of a variety of stakeholders, a variety of activities, a variety of experiences as well, that are attracting people and that allow people to leave a destination for a certain amount of time. And if we want to look at where the structure of this offer might stay and might be, for sure we should look at products and food products. And I would even add like maybe fresh products, because they might be consumed, they have to be consumed in the destination. But sorry, just to get back to the question, the point is lots of former students from the University of Gastronomic Sciences, they are trained gastronomes that know that they can do a lot in the touristic sector. And they also go back to rural areas, not necessarily urban areas, not necessarily touristic developed areas already. And they know that tourism can be a way to help the economy of a specific area. And we love this because it is so important. And what we try to do with the study trip projects, it is to help them whenever we can by taking some students into a destination, maybe give the opportunity to former students to run a tour. So to be a guide, to create this offer, having students coming, and to have basically everyone around the table, producers, policymakers, the mayor of a little city. And this is how, with time, we know the destinations have evolved. And I can think of practical examples in my mind in Italy and outside of Italy, actually, like in many destinations all over the world. And I'm very proud of this. And this is also, I believe, the occasion to thank all the former students of University of Gastronomic Sciences, because they have done an amazing job. And if we today are able to provide new gastronomes with many insights and many amazing experiences, it is thanks to them, first of all, because they went back and they knew that there was a lot to share. And so that is something that definitely happened, together, of course, with all the professionals from within the university that are spending their time creating, in my opinion, amazing itineraries and managing groups. And they believe in education, and they also believe in gastronomy, because they're all gastronomes. So
it's interesting what you say, that they're going back home, wherever it is, and even to rural areas, taking their knowledge, sharing their knowledge, and creating these networks, which is great to see, and it'll be very interesting to see what evolves in the next 10 years or so. Pietro, you were talking about your study trips being an important part of what you offer, and I'm just wondering how that's going right now for you with COVID, what you guys are doing for that. And obviously you're making different arrangements, but is that going to continue then when COVID is over?
Well, thank you for the question. And of course, it is a very, I would say, hard question to answer to, because as I said, like, the philosophy of our didactic offer leads to, on these experiences that are physical experiences. What we are doing right now is our best in order to create I would say, an interesting and an important didactical offer and gastronomic activities that are also online. And we know that we are able to do it. We are trying right now, and we are having amazing surprises on one side. And I would say that this is, in my opinion, and it has a lot to do with the possibility to create digital experiences in order to educate gastronomes, which I would say it is a possibility, and we know that we are doing it. There are certain activities that for sure are easier than others. If I think of, well, let's say wine tastings, for example, because let's be clear, like we've tried already several products, and we're trying to create different formats. We're trying to diversifying experiences. We know that technology provides lots of solutions. I also, if I am thinking about, let's say, practical experiences, good examples are, let's say, last week we just finished a trip. There was a wine, in theory it was supposed to be a wine trip to a Italian region. We've done that online, and we were able to put the students in contact with several producers, and we had all the wines in class, so people could taste and share this experience together with the producers. And that worked. So we know that we can do it. At the same time, I believe that it will be interesting to share the fact that, for example, I would say, 3 main cases that I observed. One was the fact that people said, "I'm sorry, I cannot organize the experience of online because I'm too busy." And the reason why they were busy was because everyone was asking them to provide online experiences. The second point was that someone else said, "I'm sorry, I'm not gonna create a compromise, a digital compromise, so I cannot deliver the same experience in a digital way, so I'll rather not do it." And other food producers, and in this case wine producers, said, "I'm sorry, I do not have enough infrastructures in terms of internet connection so that I cannot deliver this experience." And I guess I'm sharing these 3 cases just to say that, yes, there are possibilities to create another offer, and it is possible to have digital experiences that are valuable in terms of education and gastronomical education. At the same time, there are also a lot of challenges, and that are related, first of all, to infrastructures and this idea of having compromises, and also the fact that there is now a kind of a digital market and digital demand, which is very full. So it's it brought us on a completely different level. And but by the way, I also want to maybe finish this on this about digital experiences by saying that, for example, I taught a course for 15 students, and that lasted for about 2 months, and we've met so many times online, and I have to say that I believe that we've created a very deep connection, maybe even deeper than the connection that we could have developed in class, which I believe, it's just, of course, it's my opinion, and but I do believe that digital experiences are possible even in education and in gastronomy. Also, as I would say, for a journey, for a trip, it is, at the end of the day, it's up to the group to make that experience working, which means that nowadays I believe it's also up to students to help out the producers that are trying to do their best in a digital way. And I think it is not easy for many of them. And we need to be aware of it now and tomorrow, which I think is also why I think that there is room for students and for gastronomic universities to create an educational curriculum on the ability and the competencies that are required in order to help producers to go online. Because there is now a need for producers to be able to do it.
May I have a word?
Sure. Yeah.
Just to follow the Pietro part, I think that is really interesting what he has already raised. I would say that there are so many things with the pandemic and the COVID-19, but I have to say that if something good out of this, it has been this. The pandemic has awake us, everybody, has been more, we will really need just to see different ways of doing things that we never have seen in the other way, or you just waiting until something happens that we didn't know when. Pietro mentioned something quite interesting regarding when it comes, and then it just highlight here my researcher part, just to say that you talk about online experiences. So how we can, this part of, we need to be creative when we have been changing the way that we were doing things. And our students, because at the beginning, during the lockdown, we just had the intention, well, we are afraid maybe because we cannot go out, so we need to cancel all of the outdoor activities. But we have seen this wonderful reaction of people as a human beings that we have been able to adapt really quickly. And students too. So students, producers too, and even, the people that just jump into online area, maybe by just opening a WhatsApp and be part of the WhatsApp group in order to offer and deliver their own products. So can we call digital transformation? Maybe not. But that is the first step that otherwise they will never have been seeing this. They will never just trying to think about it. So I think that the pandemic has just given us this intention that we really need to think about, deliver new experiences, might be online experiences, deliver new ways of have this connection with the students, make this online world available and even reachable for more people that we never have been expected otherwise. So I think that what we have doing, for instance, is just trying to work on the hybrid places, just online and face-to-face. This is new formats that we have been witnesses through this couple of latest months here, that otherwise we will never have done this before. So I think that this fast growth of changing, it's also going to give us a lot of opportunities to test, try, and learn differently. And I will say that one of the magical things of gastronomy tourism and gastronomy education, gastronomy tourism education, or gastronomy tourism, is just that we can just go outside. When we have the chance, we can just do and maybe improve more outdoor activities when we have the chance. But when we are online, maybe we can just have and create new experiences, a new way of deliver this experience for our students. So I will say that this pandemic has give us another perspective also for the educational sector.
Let's go ahead and ask the audience if they have any questions. And there are some good questions that have been percolating over in the chat window. One of which is the study of gastronomy tourism moving away from economic outputs and dealing with social, environmental, sustainability, and cultural dimensions to addressing more things like over-tourism and climate change?
Yeah, it is a really good question, I would say. May I kind of just move? I would say that yes, indeed. It's right that we have more people that they're just trying, more students and interested students that they're trying to link gastronomy tourism and move into the sustainability, because gastronomy tourism since the beginning has been help destinations to go unseasonal. Just not to delocate it and deseasonalize the tourism activity, and even in the crowded destinations like could be Barcelona. So gastronomy tourism has a lot of and can make a big contribution to the sustainable development goals or the sustainability and against climate change. It connects producers with consumers. We have this social impacts, cultural impacts. So it is quite linked to sustainability. And we have, let's say, see a lot of our students that they recognize this area of study, that they are more, and they will like to go in depth in analyzing this part of sustainability. I mean, gastronomy tourism as a tourism phenomenon that can contribute to the sustainability and the sustainable development goals. And I say that will be, and it is part of the, let's say, the gastronomy tourism can give us a lot of opportunities within the framework of sustainability. Recovery of traditions that we have lost, recovery of that biodiversity. That there are so many good results and inputs that we can just name and list it that gastronomy tourism can offer, that goes away, I would say, from massive areas and over tourism. Actually, just quite the opposite. If you just take tours, and maybe Pietro's experience with their students, we just work in gastronomy tourism, work with small and reduced groups. So you don't go to, massive things where that is crowded. You're just looking for something authentic, for something. Locality is one of the main things in gastronomy tourism. So let's say that we are quite the opposite. I will say the gastronomy tourism is looking for something more that is just the other side of over tourism, in my opinion. And we have a lot of opportunities to do that and to continue in that way.
Yes. May I?
Please, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that Maria just said.
Speakers I've ever dealt with, you're always asking if you can go, and everyone else goes, and you guys are very polite.
Okay.
So I agree with what Maria was saying. I would just try to provide examples related to study trips, because maybe it might be easier to follow. I believe that, let's say, in terms of, and I am assuming here the three main dimensions of sustainability. So I would just quote, environmental, then economic, and social sustainability. That this specific project, let's say, in terms of social sustainability, and here I'm talking also about the institution that is organizing this, which now is University of Gastronomic Sciences, but I'm thinking about universities in general. We need to create a dialogue between knowledge, like knowledge in terms of academic knowledge and traditional knowledge. And when we talk about gastronomic tourism, we are talking about the possibility to educate people within this institution, which are universities, and putting them in connection with communities and producers that are, let's say, part of a different knowledge tradition, if that makes sense, traditional knowledge and academic knowledge. And we want those two dimensions to be connected. This is the social sustainability that we are looking forward to. On the other hand, when we think about maybe economic sustainability, study trips, as we were discussing this before as well, we want to travel to rural areas, first of all, and second of all, we want to follow, academic priorities. So basically, we want to travel far from, the hot destinations, and we want to travel when no one else wants to. So this, I think, might be a benefit. And the third dimension, which I think, of course, is the big issue, the big challenge, which is related to the environmental sustainability. I think that, following what Maria was saying beforehand about the opportunities that this pandemic is offering, we definitely have to think about proximity as a dimension that will shape the future, the future, I would say a few months. It's very hard to talk about these topics anyways. Like, I would say proximity must be an issue, must be a direction for gastronomic tourism right now. for many reasons. And one that I would love to quote, but just because it's also part of a reflection that the Slow Food Association is also trying to push right now, is the fact that right now we're far from the territories where tourism is developing. We are for sure thinking about restaurants. We are asking ourselves many questions. What if the restaurants are gonna shut down? Is there going to be a tourism after that? Sometimes I believe we're not asking ourselves enough about the people that are behind restaurants, and those people are producers. And in order to take care of them, we need to think not even in a proximity way. We need to think in a local way, but I would say we need to think in a micro way, which, you know, because we need to just try to support the fresh product producers now that the tourists can't. And
Pietro,
so
may I just comment in there, because I think what you're saying is very important. You talked about traditional knowledge, academic knowledge, but I also think the workforce training, the workforce knowledge, it's taking that academic information, things that we're learning. So maybe people are studying COVID's effect on gastronomy tourism, but taking those learnings and applying them to real business situations. So we have a comment here about someone has observed many people doing wine tours or food tours without any kind of experience. They're just kind of winging it. You know, they're just, oh, I can do that. You know, I'm fun, so I'll give a wine tour, right? And we've all seen people like this. We, in our association, we took a stand on this, and so we now certify tourist guides and tour operators in terms of the excellence that they offer. And here's a link to our online trading academy for that. But would you comment a little bit on the linkage between what's being discovered in academia and research and the practical everything that's happening right now in businesses?
You mean if that research has been applied into businesses and to the real life,
Yeah,
let's say?
have you learned anything now in the research, the discussions that are taking place in your studies with your students and researchers that can be applied to the current situation?
Well, I would say that there is a lot of, part of our students, I would say that this is also quite important, is that part of our students, they just also follow like the research part. I mean, we have like two different pathways that they can choose. They can go and do their final dissertation is in more academic, more research. And then the other one would be more like a business plan or so, just like entrepreneurship. So, and I would say that based on research, that was before pandemic. Now we will have to see, because the new academic year just started in October for us. We will see if this, and I'm quite confident that we are going to see many different final dissertations that are going to tackle the effects of COVID-19 and how we can apply to businesses and so on. But previously, before pandemic, let's say that some of the final dissertations or the research that they have done, they have been applied to their own countries. Because of their work at the administration, the public level, or because they have their own business and they would like just to upgrade their businesses. But let's say, if we have this conversation 1 year ahead, in next year, maybe it will be interesting to see how many of our students or Pietro's students or worldwide has responded to the needs to understand how gastronomy tourism, how can we help gastronomy tourism from research, because we really need to produce a lot of research, how it's going to be the impact, not just in restaurants, as Pietro mentions, just also, and you mentioned it too, Pietro, quite interesting too, to producers. We cannot just forget producer. We cannot forget the whole, let's say, network that is producing within gastronomy tourism. So I think that we need more research. We need more knowledge. We need more applied information that could be publicly given to businesses and companies in order to take decisions. I think that that might be one of the challenges, I would say.
I agree very much with what Maria was saying, and I think, I will also say that it is very hard right now, and what I think we can do is to observe what is happening. It takes time, but just, you know, I would say this as a, let's say, an anthropologist. It is very slow, the process that brings you know, new knowledge and new competencies that are applicable to the market. But at the same time, I want it, when I say there needs to be a dialogue between what's inside the university and what is outside, I mean that universities and institutions in this moment must be perceived as open systems, because I believe that networking, it's going to be a resource, of course, of the future, way more than before, which means that I believe that stakeholders must find their ways to dialogue, to create a dialogue with universities. And it is something that we are now inside, let's say, at least in unis, we are trying to do this. So create space and room for stakeholders, professionals, people that are part of the food industry, but also the touristic industry, to dialogue, create a dialogue with us in order to be able to tell us what they also need, because this is also what we can do in terms of creating the new, you know, the new professionals that tomorrow are going to be able to cope with the challenges that this pandemic has created. And this is why I was mentioning before the idea, you know, this little thing, which is an observation. I've seen producers, amazing producers, telling me we are not going to create a compromise. I know what my experience in real life can be. I'm not gonna try to do it online or in a digital way if I'm not sure that this is going to be, you know, as interesting as it was before. I believe there is room there, for example, if I have to say. And so I'm just saying that there is where we need to go. So to hear, to listen what the needs are, so that we are going to be able to provide knowledge, even more than competences. So knowledge in the first place and competences, of course, after that. And we are not going to be like, you know, it's not only up to us, it's up to everyone, I guess. Because if I might say something else, I just believe that we really need the network in terms of everyone needs to be a part of this idea of be able to bounce back if we talk about tourism. But same goes with the idea of like saving products, taking care of producers, be, you know, the first support, as consumers, be the first supporter of restaurants, and be the first supporter of the producer that is just behind your corner. And, you know.
And I will say that it's not just about, because you mentioned supporting, which is, I mean, I absolutely agree, but I will say that also we need to understand how the social, I mean, our behaviors as a tourist and gastronomy tourists are going to change due to the pandemic. I mean, how the health and this social distance is going to affect us, and it's going to affect the businesses, because maybe they need to readapt things and rethink about this, because obviously the way that we always just take this you know, alcohol and things just for washing our hands or clean our hands. So these small things, it's going to change. It's going to be and produce an impact in our society, in our social behavior, and that is going to translate to the tourism phenomenon. So we need to think about that for businesses, but also for customers, in that case, tourists. So I think that will be part of the discussion in the upcoming years.
Good stuff. Well, we need to start thinking about finishing up, but before we end things, I want to leave you both with a question to just share with people what your one takeaway is from today. But before that, so you can be thinking about that now, how would you like people to get in touch with you if they have questions about your program, or would you like to provide them with a URL or your email or your social media profiles? If there's anything you'd like to share with people, go ahead and put that into the chat window right now so people can get in touch with you for more information. So the big question is, what is the one thing that you would like people to take away from our talk today? One thing, just 2 or 3 sentences.
Well, this is a tough part, Eric, because we have been discussing so many different issues that we need to tackle. But I will say that from my point of view, I will say that we will need, and taken by Pietro's idea, we will need to create networks, work together, open new spaces for discussion, bring different stakeholders into this discussion, and help to produce, and from my side, I help to produce new knowledge and train people in order to understand the complexity of both sectors, gastronomy and tourism.
Pietro?
Yeah, basically just what I said before. So to think local and to talk about and try to promote proximity as much as possible, and to develop. This is might sound a little bit theoretical, but to try to develop a gaze that is looking at what's near and not always about what's maybe far. So because I think it's a process. So to take this as a process of looking what's behind, but what's very behind the corner. So I believe that this thing of being everyone online, it's creating this thing of like be connected or the entire world like so far, and maybe we just forget about what is very close to us. And I believe that this is going to be crucial for the tourism of tomorrow, to support the places where we are physically right now, because there are no tourists in this moment, at least in my own country or in my region right now. So
Interesting. Well, you both talked about developing our networks, and then there was another comment about sharing gastronomic tourism research and trends and information in academic networking. Here at the association, we are taking our first generation community platform. We've learned from it, and we are going to be launching a new platform after the first of the year. And there's a dedicated area for academics to do exactly this, to
Right.
share their research, connect with other researchers and academics, find research partners, and so on. So that's coming in a couple months. So we're very happy about that.
That's great. And
Yeah.
thanks for the effort, I will say. Before we finish, I would like to thanks to you, Eric, to you, Pietro. It has been a really wonderful and lovely conversation. But also, I would like to thank all of the people that have joined us through, live stream, and have made a lot of interesting questions that I was just reading and say, okay, I need more time just to answer this. But thank you, everybody, just for being there. And I hope that this discussion might be helpful.
Absolutely. I'm same here. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Pietro and Maria. You guys are fantastic. I feel like I have cut this short. I feel like we need another hour. And like I said, if we were at a dinner party together, we'd need the whole night, and we'd continue into breakfast the next morning. So maybe we could do it again next year, because I think that there's so much more that we could talk about. You're both very interesting, very passionate, and I look forward to more conversations. So thank you so much for sharing your time today.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.